Hi,
Hi.
welcome back to Roots and Reflections. It's episode 3 of our series. Today we'll be talking more about teenagers' mental health in school, and we actually have a special guest today.
Yep, today we have a guest named Trey Hull. He's the Director of Curriculum and Instruction for Gateway Global American Youth and Business Alliance Academies.
Yeah, so we just have a couple questions for him, and we're excited to hear about his experiences. So, hi guys, this is Trey. Trey, if you could give us a little background about your experiences and how you're kind of connected to education and the youth.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Dr. Trey Hull. I am a geospatial intelligence instructor for high school and early college students. My research and academic background's in integrated and applied sciences. And really what I enjoy doing is helping just early adults and just helping people figure their way out through critical thinking and intelligence.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. Javi also has a few questions for you.
Yes, so basically, one question that we wanted to ask was that we know that you deal with teens and technology. So, how can teens use technology productively, so not distracting themselves, to manage their workload effectively?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the best ways that teens and really anybody can use technology to improve their work-life balance or just improve efficiency in doing anything is first and foremost, find technology that works for you. It doesn't matter how amazing a tool is if you're not going to use it, right? So finding something that works for you and sticking with that, simpler the better, and learning ways that you can remove barriers and remove those things that make it difficult to do things.
It's in like classrooms in school. I'm sure Bahavia has too, but a lot of teachers are really against technology. Like, for example, in my
I
Spanish,
agree.
yeah, my profe is always like, all right, like phones away, computers away, technology away. And she just has this mindset that it's better to learn without technology and without AI. While on the other hand, some students can argue like, oh, AI is helpful, it's more efficient, and it helps me learn. So like, what are your thoughts on that? And if you were like a teacher, what would your like policies be on that?
So first and foremost, it's every teacher has their own teaching style, and a lot of it depends on how you were trained and how you learned teaching. And that goes back ever since. It's I know when I was coming up, it was anti-technology. Actually, fun story when I was in nursing school. Um, I was having trouble with my medication calculations, and one of the instructors told me that I really needed to memorize these because it's not like I'm going to have a computer in my pocket all the time. Now, bear in mind, I'm a little bit older, so this was like smartphones were really real brand new, and it wasn't something that a lot of people thought about. And I was like, I actually do have a computer in my pocket all the time. I could just look this stuff up. But as far as technology in the classroom goes, it's a lot of it's teacher comfort. I know as teachers develop in their own methodology and their own ways of doing things, sometimes they loosen that up a little bit. Me personally, I have no problem with it. I encourage all of my students to use AI, take advantage of all the technology that's out there. Again, there's no tool does you any good if you're not using it, right? So I'm very pro AI. I'm pro computers. I don't mind if students are on their phone. I personally have I have pretty severe ADHD, and so I've had that issue with teachers before, where they see me on my phone or on the computer, and they'd be like, "Hey, Trey, pay attention. You're paying attention." When in reality, I'm actually looking up something that they're talking about to understand the context, or oftentimes I'm just looking how to spell a word because I don't remember. And so I think a lot of it. I think one thing that students can actually do, and a lot of students don't take advantage of or too scared to do, is have a conversation with the teacher. Schedule some time with the teacher. Say, hey, I'd like to use this in class. This helps me. Can I show you how it'll help? If you have any concerns about it, can we talk about it right now?
Okay, so Trey, I know in the beginning you talked about how like there's not really one like magical app that will help everyone. It kind of depends on how you use it yourself. But are there any specific like AI tools or any apps that you think really help like something that's helped you with productivity, or you think that that could help other kids as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of my biggest tools that I use and I use daily is Speechify. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. It's a text to speech app. So like I said, with my ADHD, it's very difficult for me to read, especially small text. I it'll put me to sleep. I get physically tired from doing it. And so what I found helping is I'll just upload my PDFs or upload whatever I need to read to Speechify, and it'll read it to me. I'll read along with it. And whereas it would take me 2 to 3 days to get through a research paper, I can read about 10 a day now. So I went from 2 to 3 days for one to about 10 a day now.
Yeah, I would say personally, I'm more of like an auditory learner. And, like for example, I'm taking APUSH, like AP US History, and we have like 10 pages of reading due every 2 days. And it's so hard for me to get through it. But I'm going to try to do that. I'm going to get a free trial on Speechify, and I'm going to put it through and let's see if it works.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the best things that I do, and it takes a little practice, takes a little get used to. I don't have time for normal speed. Everything is 1.5 or 2. And I can, like I said, I can absorb and retain so much more with that and still at double speed.
Okay, thank you so much, Trey. I have another question. This is more about like performance, and it's like in high pressure environments like the military or like just in school, mental health is really critical. So, what's your advice for teens who feel guilty about prioritizing self-care over productivity?
Don't. First off, I mean, just right out of the bat, don't feel guilty about that. It took me a long time. Like I said, you guys mentioned I was a nurse. I went to nursing school. I was a nurse for almost 10 years. And I left nursing because I quite literally burnt out. I got to the point where I realized I stopped having empathy for my patients, which is just not a good look as a nurse. Like it's kind of the whole point of the thing. And I realized I wasn't prioritizing my self-care. So what ends up happening is you're going to feel guilty that you're doing that in the moment. But eventually you'll get to the point where you can't do anything. And so do you want to take a couple seconds here or a couple minutes here? Or do you want to just fall off altogether down the road? So it's one of those pay a little bit up front so you don't pay a lot on the back end.
Yeah, that's very true. Academic burnout is a real thing, and if you don't deal with it soon, like it can really pile up and make you not be able to get anything done later on.
Absolutely.
And I just had actually one more question, and it's how do you balance high expectations with maintaining mental health well-being?
That's a good question. Honestly, the way I do it, it's sometimes you got to remember things don't matter. There's some things that just that they'll see very, very severe to me. I'll be like, oh no, I have to I have to read this paper tonight. I have to read it tonight because we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it in 2 days. I got to make sure I have enough time to read it. And like I got to thoroughly go through the full thing, and then I got to remember, well, is what's going to happen if I don't get through this paper tonight? Will I have time tomorrow? Yeah, a little bit of time tomorrow. Is the world going to end if I don't? No. Worst case, I'm a little unprepared. I maybe ask for a little bit more time, or say, hey, can we talk through this? I didn't have great time to go through this, but remembering that sometimes things in the moment, a lot of times will look like mountains when on reflection, they were actually molehills.
Thank you so much, Trey.
Absolutely.
Your advice is really well appreciated.
Do you have any questions about us or for us?
Yeah. So as students, as teenagers, what advice would you give to me as a teacher that can help encourage or help my students maintain their mental health?
That's a great question. I think one thing you can do is maybe send out a survey. Like maybe a survey to students at the beginning of the year and maybe like ask like, what's your learning style? What is your take on technology? Because I have experience with a lot of teachers just like first day, here's the syllabus, here are my rules. And a lot of students complain, but like on the low, so the teacher doesn't hear and the teacher just never knows about that. So I think that would be a great way to connect more with like the audience.
Yeah, I agree with Grace. I've actually had a few of my teachers on the first day just give a Google form and they kind of ask for what our learning styles are and stuff. And I've seen that they try to incorporate that within like the daily schedule, and that helps everyone around us. Teachers who do that make their classroom so much more productive than teachers who lay out like hard and set rules. So kind of being flexible towards your students' like learning styles can really help.
Awesome. Yeah. I think I'll go ahead and do that. I think that's a really good idea. And I don't think I've ever thought of doing that. I try to tell my students, hey, learn the best way. Let me know if you need any help, but never like, hey, how do you want to do this? Cool. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Of course.
Thank you so much for joining today on today's episode and like sharing your experiences and also asking us about ours. It was really enjoyable.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me on here. Really enjoyed it and appreciate your feedback.
Thank you so much for joining us today on this episode of Roots and Reflections. Bye.
Bye.